Blessed love and blessings way up, oh boxing world, boxing nation, fighting world, fight nation. It's Coach Fighting. This is real life boxing. Hey, we got a new unified welterweight champion in Errol Spence, WBA, WBC, and IBF. He absolutely destroys Yordenis Ugas. Had Yordenis Ugas' face looking like Ubin's face last week, looking like the Avatar. Hey, before we get into it, I'm going to ask you guys to smash up on that like button, hit the subscribe button, y'all already know, and that bell icon so you can be notified when all content is being uploaded on the channel. I call that your best 112, your best double jab straight down the pipe. Errol Spence was throwing a lot of those. Fight starts. Very exciting. The Dallas arena was packed. A lot of energy in the building. Ugas was ready. Spence was ready. Spence comes out, establishes the jab immediately. And one thing that I noticed very early in the fight. Now the first round was good, competitive. But one thing that I noticed, the first round was just like a jab fest. You know what I'm saying? Both fighters. But what I noticed immediately is that Errol Spence had the dominant jab. Now Ugas was jabbing with him, but very early noticed that Errol Spence had the dominant jab, was jabbing downstairs to the body, doubling up to the head, just trying to find his range. Wasn't really landing the left hand early, but was connecting with your jab, connecting with the jab. When he did throw the left hand, he was overshooting with it, shooting it too long. And y'all heard me say that in my live. He gotta shorten it up. He gotta get the footwork down packed with the punches. He didn't quite have the footwork down packed with the punches, and stuff like that happens. You know, when you have the long layoff, your timing. It takes a bit to get your timing back. It takes a bit to get your range back, especially with a guy like Ugas, who is rangy himself and who is long himself. You know what I'm saying? Makes sense that it took Spence a little bit of time to get his distance and his range down packed. So the first two rounds was more like jab fest with both fighters. Now, I'm not saying Ugas was doing pretty good. He was jabbing with Spence, and that's what you want to do, jab with the jabber. He was going upstairs, going downstairs. He was landing his jab to the body, and when he was shooting his right hand, you know, Spence would catch it or Spence would roll underneath it. Neither one of them was landing power shots like really up until about, I would say, the third round. But I would say in the third round is when Spence really started to get comfortable, and I said that also in my live. Oh, he's starting to get comfortable now. He's starting to pick up the pace, and he said it. I'm watching the post-fight presser right now, and they just finished interviewing Spence, and that's one thing that he said. Oh, once I seen that he was tentative and he was just shelling up, let me throw my shots. He was like, oh, I got him now, and that's something that I spoke about in my pre-fight prediction for this fight. Ugas fighting very tentative, at a slow pace. He was trying to match Errol Spence, you know, punch for punch, countering when Errol Spence punched. But I said this in my pre-fight prediction. Very hard to counterpunch a puncher like Errol Spence. A puncher that punches at the pace of Errol Spence and that fights at the pace of Errol Spence. So I already knew that Errol Spence fought at a way higher pace than Ugas. I already knew that Ugas had never fought anyone that fought at the pace that Errol Spence fights at, and I thought that would be a problem for Ugas, just the pace that Errol Spence fights at. I felt like it would have been difficult for Ugas to keep up with that pace, and so said, so done. By the fourth round, now Ugas was having his moments. He was doing good things, countering at certain times. He started to land a good counter shot to Spence's body later on in the fight, but you know, too far and few in between. So third round, fourth round picks up, you know, Spence picks up the pace. I think it was about the fifth round or the sixth round maybe when Ugas caught Spence in a combination, punching, you know, throwing punches with Spence, caught Spence with a little short uppercut that wasn't really a hard punch. It was kind of really like a glancing punch, but maybe just the position, you know, how it landed knocked Errol Spence's mouthpiece out, and Errol Spence, you know, thought that the referee said break, because it clearly, you know, flew out. So he thought the referee said break. He walks over, you know, turns his back on Ugas. Ugas continues to punch. Then he hit Spence with a good right hand that sent Spence back on the ropes, and at that point he thought Spence was buckled, but Ugas kind of just looked at him. They both kind of looked at the referee like they didn't know like what the it was really odd. But anyway, after that moment, Spence really got to business, really turned up the pace. Once he got his distance down, stepping inside with the double jab, once he got the distance down, and once Ugas also, he stopped using his feet. For on defensively, he stopped using his feet. So instead of retreating, or circling, he just decided to stand there and shell up. And at that point, Errol Spence was just able to start sitting down on his punches, running off combinations, upstairs, downstairs. He also started to establish the left hook, the left hook, left uppercut combination, left uppercut, left hook combination. Same punch, doubling up with the same hand, with the rear hand. He would throw the uppercut and then throw the hook around and then throw the hook with the lead hand. Just nasty combinations, and then sit down and go to the body from there. Ugas never adjusted to the uppercut. His eyes started swelling up early in the fight. I seen that shit early in the fight. But about the third or fourth round, his eyes started swelling up. And that was just from the jab. You know what I'm saying? Once Spence started to hit him with the uppercut, it was a wrap. Like Ugas, and just like Lubin last week, Ugas never adjusted to the uppercut. He's just standing there, leaning forward with his head in the middle of the pocket, with the high guard, and Spence is just splitting the shit out of it with the high guard. And even if he doesn't split the guard with the uppercut, he's coming around it with the hook, and then he's finishing to the body with hard shots. And I mean, he's just sitting down like on these punches, just sitting down on them, all power punches. And I knew once he started to do that, Ugas was shaking his head saying no and smiling at him and saying no. But I already knew once Spence started to do that, it was a complete wrap for Ugas, because I already knew it's just a matter of time before those shots start to break him down. I mean, he's hitting them with hard body shots. He's doubling up the uppercut. He's doubling up the hooks. And Ugas is tough. And Ugas is at moments countering at times and throwing little hard shots in between. He started to throw some right hands over the top, I would say, in about the 8th round. Yeah, in about the 8th round. I don't know if his game plan was to try to gas Errol Spence out, or hope that Errol Spence would punch himself out. I don't know if that was his game plan, and if he thought that he would be able to withstand that until Errol Spence got tired and then picked up the pace on EJ. But that didn't work. If that was the game plan, it completely backfired on him, because Errol Spence was just hitting Ugas literally like he was hitting the fucking punching bag. I mean, the same way how he's hitting the punching bags in the media workout is the same way that he's hitting Ugas. It's like, Jesus fucking my goodness. And I just knew that he's starting to hit Ugas like that. Literally looked like he was on the punching bag. Then Ugas was just countering with the right hand upstairs, and Errol Spence knew that punch was coming, and he would either catch it on his glove or just roll underneath it. I do give in the 8th round, 8th, 9th round, that's when Ugas tried to stop picking it up, and he started to counter when Errol Spence would throw his left hand or left or whatever and step in, because Errol was just stepping in and closing the distance. And when Errol Spence would do that, Ugas would counter with 2 body shots, and he would start with the right hand and then the left hand to the body. And Errol Spence, he wasn't liking those, but them shits was just making him more mad, and he was just more prompt to continue to put the beating on Ugas. Ended up, I think it was in the 10th round, 10th round. Yeah, in the 10th round, the doctors had looked at Ugas' eye a few rounds before that, maybe in the 8th round, 7th, 8th round, and then they looked at it again in the 10th round, and they was like, no, you can't continue. The eye is completely shut. The other eye was starting to shut, and there's probably something. He's probably got a serious eye injury there, because when his trainer was going to put the ice on it, he was like, no, like you can tell like it was hurting him. And at one point in the fight, Errol Spence, maybe it was the 8th round, where Errol Spence really rocked him and started to shake him up. He hit him right on the eye with the uppercut, and Ugas, like his body jumped up. Then in the 9th round, I think it was the 9th round after that, Woof, he just started putting it on Ugas, man. He was hitting Ugas with uppercuts, and every time he hit him, like Ugas's entire body would jump, like just jump. Referee calls Ugas over to the corner to look at the doctors. The doctor says no, the eye is completely shut. You can't see my man. Ugas runs out. Ugas wants to continue the fight. The doctor does not want him to continue the fight. Therefore, the fight is stopped in the 10th round by the referee, and it is a TKO for Errol Spence, the new WBA, IBF, and WBC welterweight champion of the world. And not to mention the big fish, he calls out Terrace Bud Crawford at the end of the fight. He says, I'm coming for them motherfucking belts. I'm coming over there, and I'm coming to take that motherfucker. He called out Terrace Crawford. He said his name. He said that's the fight that he wants after this. He just said it again in the press conference. So I know I was one of the ones who said this fight is never going to happen. They're not going to fight each other at this age. They're going to wait a few more years until they're both fucking crippled. But it seems like this fight is finally going to happen. Errol the Truth, man down the big fish, Spence against Terrace Bud Crawford. That's going to be lit. Because this fight, everybody was talking about this fight. And, people don't even know Ugas all like that. The real boxing fans, though. But, you know what I mean? Like the casuals, they don't really know Ugas like that. But, you know what I mean? Everybody know Bud. So, let's go. This is the fight that we've been calling for years. And finally, the big fish, Errol Spence, calls out Terrace Bud Crawford. So, we're going to see what happens. Anyway, you guys, tell me what y'all think about the fight in the comment section if y'all seen it. Tell me what y'all think about my post-fight video. Hey, tell me what y'all think about Errol Spence and Bud Crawford. Until then, protect yourself at all times. Keep fighting your fight. Man, it's Coach Fight. This is real life boxing.